Well, what should we talk about, guys? What do you think?
Well, Gavin was saying you can talk about pistols, so I was thinking about pistols. Okay, because I've got some things on that for my if it's pistols and what you said about home security type things. Let's do it.
Here's a pistol right here. Um,
Gavin's not clear, which I'm glad. Then I don't got to look at you smirking at me, laughing at me all the time.
well, I mean,
Okay,
I
I
think,
don't even know what that is. That a water gun day? Well, let's get started so I get smart mouth with you first, so it counts.
yeah, yeah. Do we want to do an intro or just keep
Now I'm
talking?
doing this for you, David. So you
All
you
right,
started
cool.
out.
All right. Well, Brian and Gavin, it's good to see you guys again
Good
for
to see you.
number podcast number two. I think we're going to try to keep this one and cap this one at 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
okay, cool. It's Sunday evening. Gavin, you're in Texas. Brian, you're in Wisconsin, and I'm here in Wyoming. So
See this
we got
here?
we got kind of
Go
the
Pack Go.
middle of the country going. So yeah, I think the topics that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit is pistol ballistics, and I think just kind of a primer, no pun intended, on how handgun ballistics works and how they're distinct from rifle ballistics, and I think we should probably say how they're distinct from arrow ballistics as well.
Okay.
And I also you just got to kind of think about how many pistols are out there compared to rifles. I think a lot of folks carry pistols on a daily basis, and giving people something to think about when it comes to I think it's oftentimes it's kind of a mystery in terms of what these bullets are doing in a hypothetical situation. And I think it's important for people to understand kind of what bullets are doing if they need to use them for self-defense or even for hunting. Because there are, I think there's a lot of people who do use pistols for hunting. Obviously, it's not as common as rifle hunting, but there are definitely people who do use pistols for hunting and pest control, stuff like that. So, Brian, I guess a question for you. How much experience do you have with a pistol?
I've shot them before.
Okay.
That's about as much as I could say. And if you ask me where, when, what, and why, I'm trying to think because I
Yeah.
don't lie, but I'm sure I have shot them. But right now I can't remember. I've had my employees bring them out and shoot them and all that. So all I know is to me a pistol. You can't hit the broadside of a barn, so I have a pistol. I mean that's just the old. I got to right. I want to hit something. They're very
Well,
hard to shoot, is my understanding.
that's a really good point, and pistols are much harder to be accurate with than rifles because you only have I guess 2 points of contact. You've got your both hands, whereas a
Uh-huh.
rifle you've got both hands and then you have it into your shoulder. If you're shooting standing, I mean, it's even more stable if you're on a bench. So pistols, I think, inevitably are going to be less accurate than rifles at baseline. So I think that's a consideration when you're choosing a home defense ammunition or just an ammunition that you'd use for carry. Gavin, what's been your experience with carrying? Do you carry? Do you ever hunt? Do you ever shoot hogs with pistols, or what's been your experience?
So yes, a lot of both. I carry every day. I have a Glock 43X.
Yep.
Um, I would prefer this bullet right here. It's the 147. It's a hollow point from Federal.
Yep.
Um, I
HST.
really like those. Yes. They don't cycle well out of my gun for whatever reason. I don't have a single mag that'll shoot them. Gun doesn't like them, so right now I'm running the 124. It's a hollow point from uh who makes it? Sig. It's a Sig. That's
The
the one
V
that
crown, the SNCC V crown.
I don't. I think it's just a standard hollow point. I don't think it's the V crown because I did try the
Okay.
V crown. Um, but yeah, so I have shot a lot of hogs with them. I've shot some big hogs with this right here, and I have had them hit the skull, break, and had dropped the hog, and then the hog get up and run.
Yeah.
without killing it. So I actually
Interesting.
went over to just regular ball ammo, and I was shooting them with that instead. And I found that for headshots that worked a lot better because I was getting in there. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of getting back to what we were talking, what I was just saying is it's such an important I mean, if you're going to be carrying a pistol in public and potentially using it in a situation where you have to protect yourself or your family or innocent people, knowing what the ammunition is going to do that you're potentially going to fire is really important.
yep,
And then also, I mean, if you're going to hunt with it too, I think, you know, and kind of what you're talking about, Gavin, is the experience with certain type of ammunition doing certain things to animals. So, yeah, I mean, and then you add in all these other factors like, does the ammunition work in a gun? Does can you be accurate with it? What kind of penetration are you getting? What happens to the bullet if it exits the bad guy behind the bad guy? All these things are need to be considered for a responsible citizen. Now, you know, there are people who just don't care and just say, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to get as many rounds into a bad guy as possible." Okay, that's one way to think about it. But you know, if you're in a crowded area um, and you don't take these certain things into consideration, that could potentially be considered negligent. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so these are all considerations. Now, uh, for for us, we've released a 9 millimeter round, and it's designed to expand just like our hunting ammunition, expand really, really large. Um,
Wow.
so that's a 121 grain machine solid copper projectile, and they're fired out of a Glock 43X at, I don't know if you can see it. There you go.
got
At
me.
Yep.
around 1100 feet per second. So the idea here is you have a massive amount of expansion, but you don't have the risk of over penetration. And so that means if you shoot uh, uh, a bad guy, for example, the bullet will expand immediately once it gets through the thoracic cavity, or once it gets through the thoracic wall and expands in the thoracic cavity into the vitals. But you have almost like a parachute effect where it won't necessarily exit the bad guy. And what that means is that if you're in a crowded area, you really reduce the risk of that projectile going through the bad guy and hurting an innocent person. So it's one philosophy of self defense. Now there are guys out there who's going to say, "Well, I'd rather have a traditional hollow point, kind of similar to what Gavin was talking about, that expands like this." This is a 124 grain. I think it's a Nosler bullet, and it looks more like a traditional lead core bullet. Now, the thing is, with this bullet compared to this bullet, you can imagine if you have them impacting at the same velocity, this bullet here is going to penetrate more than the bullet that we're using, just because of that larger frontal surface area. You have that parachute effect of the projectiles. So you're going to create more trauma with ours, with from what we can tell in our animal testing, sufficient trauma in vitals than the lead core bullet. But the lead core bullet will penetrate further, potentially exiting the bad guy and maybe have a higher chance of passing through. So these are all just considerations when it comes to choosing a carry ammo. And you know, we were talking about sports teams, Brian, earlier. It's these philosophies are people are so emotionally invested in a certain type of system, right? Because they buy all the ammo, they practice with their carry ammo. It gets expensive, and they think about it. You know, let's say they're in a mall a crowded area and they have a Glock and they have a certain type of carry ammo, they want to be they should feel confident with what their ammunition is going to do. One thing that I'm pretty adamant about is, and we kind of touched on this on our last podcast, is live tissue testing versus gel block testing. And I think a lot of times people rely too much on these gel tests, and it's not a good analog for the real thing. I think shooting a hog with a pistol round will give somebody who's considering a certain type of carry ammo a much better representation of wounding with a particular type of ammo than a homogeneous gel block. And I know a lot, and I think this is controversial because gel block is kind of the go-to for evaluating terminal ballistics. And I upset a lot of people by saying this, but it's absolutely true. I've been in a situation where, I post on Instagram and I show data on what these pistol bullets are doing in hogs, and I provide measurements and penetration depths and all sorts of things. And yet inevitably I still get the comment, well, what does it do in a gel block? And I'm just like, well, I literally just showed you the real thing of what it's doing into a living thing. And yes, I understand that people have this baseline of what does it do in a gel block. And gel blocks are good to compare two different types of ammo, but it's just a terrible analog for the real thing. So anyways, I can talk forever on this. Brian,
I got
know
a couple
you have
questions,
here.
David. Couple questions. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. Two different ones, if I can keep them separated. One is you show two different bullets. You're shooting a bad guy. When you get into bullets, not arrows, what I have to learn, I'm always told, is shock. So I'm going to ask the two questions, let you go back. What is the shock value on a bad guy difference on your two bullets? And then when you go back to Gavin and Hogs, this gets into broadheads. Some people shoot deer or hogs in a place where the bones are, so they use a heavier arrow with a broadhead that you could shoot through a cinder block through steel and nothing's going to damage it, it'll go through. Bringing it back to Gavin's point, if he's shooting these hogs, I presume, Gavin, they're caught by dogs and you're shooting them. Well, then if he's shooting them in the head at close range, he wouldn't want that big expanding bullet. But if he's shooting them in the sides, in the lungs, then he would want that. Now, that's just my first thought. Tell me where you think my logic is
Let's
right
talk
or wrong.
about shock. How are you defining shock?
I want to learn what that's about to ask that question.
All right.
Intellectually.
Well,
So all I
that's
know
a
is they
whole,
claim bullets kill by shock, arrows don't. So and I'm trying that again. I'm trying to learn all these things.
here's the thing, Brian, is that bullets and arrows kill by the same method, and that is blood loss.
Really?
Shock? Oh yeah, absolutely. Shock. People think that shock is some mysterious energy that can remotely wound. It's bullshit. Sorry. It's just, even if, so let's put it this way. Let's say you have a lab setting where you put a hog, you anesthetize the hog, and you shoot the hog, and let's say you're able to you shoot the hog in the vitals, right? Say it's a shot right behind the shoulder, right in the heart. You can measure, let's say you're measuring all the vital signs. You see the blood pressure drop, you see brain activity drop, you're measuring all these things. How can you and let's say you're also measuring shock, right? And you have the shock wave going into the neurological system of the animal. And let's say you're able to measure that, right? How can you differentiate between the exsanguation, which is the blood loss of the animal, and the resulting death that causes, and the shock that you can, like, let's say you're measuring the shock in the nervous system. How can you say, as that animal is bleeding out, right? How can you say that shock is a contributing factor to lethality when that animal is just exsanguating, is bleeding.
Well, here's my thought. Here would be my uneducated. It's not a hypothesis because a hypothesis is an educated guess. But when you shoot a deer with an arrow, you only kill them by what you hit. But I know people, when I grew up, would shoot deer in the neck and they claim the shot. In other words, if you want to drop a deer with a broadhead, you have to cut the spinal cord up to like 40% of it to have it drop. You
Right.
hit the blood vessels for bleeding. But with a bullet, I'm told the shock is you can hit the deer in the neck, not even hit the spinal column, and the shock of that can drop them and do damage to them. I don't know that
It
that's
can
true,
drop
but
them. It can drop them, but if that spinal cord is not damaged, they can get right back up. And let's say that projectile goes through the neck and
okay.
doesn't damage major vasculature like the carotid artery, and that bullet sails through the neck. And let's say
Yeah.
it does create what's called a temporary wound cavity, which is basically the area that's radial around the permanent cavity. Then
Okay.
sure, that could produce some stress on the spinal column and the nervous system. And I have experienced that this year actually. I was helping a friend hunt. He shot an antelope, and he ended up getting 2 shots on it and dropped it. But that first shot, he got the kind of around the base of the neck, above the shoulder. It was a 400-yard shot, so it was off a little bit, but the animal dropped, and we thought, great, that's awesome. And then the animal got back up because there was a big hole. We found a big hole, big exit hole, but it was not sufficient to drop the animal, but it was temporarily sufficient because of that shock. So yes, you can do that, but it's not necessarily a lethal wounding mechanism. He eventually got the animal down with a vital shot that killed the animal. But it's an interesting. That's a very hotly debated topic in terminal ballistics. I have not seen sufficient evidence that remote wounding can lead to is a lethal form of wounding. My thought process has always been what is being crushed or damaged by the bullet, that and what is causing the bleeding, whether it's lung shot or heart shot. Obviously, if it's a brain shot or central nervous system, a brain shot, that's kind of a different story, because then you're shutting the switch.
Sure.
You're shutting the switch off.
Yeah.
But as far as vital shots, heart and lungs, that's the way to go. I mean, and I would say also people who say, hey, I'm going to do a neck shot, that's a high risk shot in terms of the animal running off, because you don't like the spinal column on a deer. I mean, if a deer is broadside, let's say the deer's broadside, you've got a medium sized buck, and let's say you're 100 yards away, that spinal column's only taken up, I mean, at most, I don't know, 30% of the neck. What would you say, Brian?
Well, obviously, it depends on the size of the deer and the rut where it is, but yeah. Yes.
Right. I mean, because you've got especially during the rut, those necks are very meaty. So there's a lot of tissue there.
Yes.
And you can get a bullet through that. And if it's not damaging that major vasculature, the animal could run off.
Oh, sure.
You'll never
Now,
find
let me ask you this. I watched a show yesterday. Gavin's probably seen this. I don't think you've done this, Gavin, where they hunt these pigs in Texas out of helicopters.
Oh, yeah.
And when they shoot them with a gun, they seem to just drop. Of course, the helicopter's moving, so I don't know if they get up again or whatever. But if they shot them with arrows, like when we go to Texas do our thing, we're not going to. The only pig that's going to drop when we shoot him is if we damage the spinal cord. That if we shoot high. So what is happening when they're shooting these pigs from the helicopters that they drop?
I think they're actually probably hitting. Well, it depends on the cartridge they're using, but they're probably, if they're above them, there's a good chance that they're actually getting their central nervous system. They're getting their spine, and that could
And
be part
Oh,
of it.
sure.
What
typically
do you think, Gavin? What's going on?
they're shooting a slug. They're shooting 12 gauge most of the time. So,
Oh,
um,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
that's another contributor.
yeah. I mean, slugs. I mean, you consider a slug. It's a 3/4 inch in diameter. It's basically it's a massive projectile, and
Sure.
they're what 425 grains. So they're and they're going. I mean, it depends on the barrel length, but they're going, I don't know, 1,500 feet per second. So that's a big projectile. So if they're aiming, if they're kind of above them,
Yeah.
they're shooting down, and they're in the front part of the animal. They're getting through they can get through a lot of vitals, whether it's lungs, heart, or um, spine.
Well, let me ask if I can, David, ask Gavin. If there's anybody in the world to ask this question to, it's Gavin D. Lagarza. What's the difference, Gavin? Because you've been in on killing how many literally thousands of pigs. You're up to over 600 this year, right? 900
Uh,
last year.
no, 600. I think 660 last year. We're at 720 for this year, so
All
we're
right,
up there.
Gavin, close enough. So
Yeah.
tell me, when you shoot a pig with your gun, what you're doing, how does the pig react or die different than if it's hit with an arrow?
It depends where we hit them. So
Right?
typically, I'm shooting this right here. It's a 6 millimeter Creedmoor. It's a Hornady 90 grain CX bullet.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing
Solid
3,100
copper.
feet per second, so it's fast.
And one thing,
Um,
it's solid copper. So
yeah,
the solid copper, Brian, typically are much stronger bullets, so it will penetrate further compared to another 90 grain bullet that's, let's say it's like a match style bullet where you have a very thin jacket that comes apart, like a VMAX, for example.
Okay.
yes, yeah. So I mean, typically, first shot is always going to be if I have it, and depending on how many people are shooting, it's always going to be right here behind the ear. It's an
And
off
what's the
switch.
reason for that, Gavin? Why do you guys shoot him in the ear? Isn't that a
It's
smaller target?
Yeah, but I mean, for one, we shoot a lot. We can hit that. Two, it's an instant kill, and so we know that we're gonna hit two. We're gonna drop two. Once they start running, just depending on how far we are, certain stuff like that. Um, if the pigs are gonna stop and we can see that they're gonna stop, we're gonna be shooting them as they're stopping. But if they're running, typically I just try to aim right in front of the nose because within about 150 yards, as long as you're there, you're going to be before the middle of the body. You're going to be in both lungs. And when I hit them there, a lot of the times on the run, they're actually going to flip, get back up, and maybe go another 20 yards. If not, they're going to stay right there. I mean, it's pretty quick. And the reason I switched to this bullet, I shot the 75 grain VMAX for most of the year.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, on a broadside shot, there's a ton of damage, but if the pig did get up and run, I wasn't gonna find that pig because there was no blood. These I'm getting pass-throughs.
Yep.
Um, on for headshots, that was another thing. I had several big hogs get away because I shot them here and they fell and got up, and I actually watched one run right in front of me, right down the road. And so that's kind of like when I decided to switch over to something like this, that it was gonna get through that and it was going to get the job done, especially for marginal shots like that, because we don't take those all the time. But when we do, I'd rather have this. And so, yeah.
So when do you use the pistol? We started out with pistols and we kind of got off a little bit. When do you use the pistol? What's the situation on a pig, Gavin?
Um, so typically, or I should say it doesn't happen that often anymore. Typically, it was when we would run dogs. Um, if we were going into a bay, a lot of the times, what would happen is we would have either like the satellite bores would kind of be in the area, or the sounder. When we would run into a sounder, a lot of the times, what would end up happening is they would break off and come at us. I don't know why. We always had the lights on. And so something we always had to be
Ooh,
vigilant with
ooh,
was
ooh,
yeah, was
ooh.
charging sows. And
Charging
a lot,
sows.
yeah,
I've
the
been
Sows.
this
I've been charged
yep,
by a sow. It's not fun.
yeah, a lot of the times it's because they have shotes with them, or they have piglets, and so they'll actually try and defend them. A lot of the times it's going to be a false charge, but when you have a 250 pound sow coming at you,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
that's it's not something you want to do. So I've turned several of them, shooting them in. I've like I said, I've shot three or four in the head, and they're still kicking on their back two legs trying to run, and their front two legs are on the ground. And eventually they turn over, and I just put one in the side, and they'll die right there. But
And you've
um,
actually been cut by these hogs before, haven't you, Gavin?
luckily only once. I have one right there. That's it. And I had it was a small boar. I had it by the back legs. And it was in mud when the dogs were on it. The dogs separated. There was another bay. And what ended up happening was all the dogs that were with me heard the bay over here, and they decided to leave me. And so luckily I had my pistol. So when they left, this boar, he turned, and when he turned, he cut me. I didn't feel it, but he kind of
Did he
stopped.
cut you when you had him by both back legs, or did you
Nope,
have to let
he
go to pick your gun up and he got you?
Well, so what happened was the dogs let go. I was holding him. Finally, he got loose. He was covered in mud. I was covered in mud. I was probably knee deep in mud. I have pictures of that night. But yeah, so when he turned, he cut me, and then he kind of took a step back, like he was gonna come back at me. And when he did, I was able to grab my gun, and I pulled it out, and I put two shots, and one hit him right here, and the other one hit him a little bit further back. And so he ran right past me and died about 5 feet from me. Um, and so yeah, I have pictures of that night. It was a fun night.
Let me ask you this, Gavin, if I can, David. Was that exciting or were you scared to death?
Oh, that's scary. I never wish that upon anyone.
I
That's the
can't
worst
believe you'd get
feeling.
scared of anything, Gavin, with all the situations you've been in, all the pigs you grab by the back legs and jump on them and all the crazy stuff you do.
Nobody wants to get charged by a big pig, I promise you that. Especially when you
Yeah,
can
you
see
could really get
cutters.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a good situation for anyone.
Yeah, the first
So,
ranch that we're going to go to in Texas, David, the guy there got charged by one of his pigs in his high fence. It just about killed him. He came close to death. So he won't let any pigs go in his high fence now when he catches them before he puts them in there. Any ones that have got big tusks, out they go. He gets rid of them.
Yeah.
He will not
Yeah.
let
I
them go
don't
in
blame
there.
them. I mean, these pigs, they're intelligent animals, like
Yeah.
very.
relatively.
Yes.
And they have a will to live too, which one could argue that every animal does, but I think hogs are just there's a reason they're so prolific. And yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, I've shot a lot of hogs with pistols, and
Oh, you have shot him with pistols too, huh?
oh yeah, yeah,
How
and I
far
think
away? That was my other question. How far away could you shoot at a pig with a pistol? Because I'm told, and Gavin agrees, if the common person did a paper plate freehand at 100 yards with a deer rifle, that's pretty tough to do. So if say that would be your maximum shot, then with a deer rifle freehand, how far could you shoot at a pig with a pistol?
I mean it depends on the skill of the guy shooting, but I
Like
mean
you, David Stark,
50 yards.
you could.
Oh yeah, oh
Could you
yeah,
do that, Gavin? You think?
Yeah. Yeah. I
But are
have
you
I mean,
putting it on a rest doing it, or are you freehand holding it, or?
yeah.
well,
This helps a lot. A
yep.
dot on your pistol, and so that really helps. There's a green dot right there,
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
that really helps with aiming.
So this is what I carry now, and yeah, same thing. I
Yeah.
have a red dot on it. Um, but yeah, this is a 22, Brian, and it's got a suppressor. Um,
If you said a 22,
it's a 22, yeah. So I mean, if
what
you
good's a
look,
22? That's just a big BB gun, no?
well, and so
Come
Not
on
if you
now,
get it in the
Gavin.
right
now
spot.
I do a very different style of hunting now. Before I would carry this, and that was for protection. Um, I've actually had to shoot javelinas with this charging at me, and I've had to call the state or the game wardens because I mean I've killed three or four and I was in a tree. Um, and so yeah, but now it's very different. Now I have the 22 because now I'm shooting them with this, and I'm walking up, and I mean if they're still breathing, obviously this just goes right behind the ear. It's quieter. A
Right.
lot of the times we have hogs still in the same field. They'll stop 800 yards away and we're able to go put another stock because we have these right here. And so if we didn't, I mean, we'd be shooting an unsuppressed 9 mil and it's not quiet.
It's not quiet. So Brian, that's what's called a veterinary pistol. The idea of being very quiet and putting an animal out of its misery. And if you've ever shot a 22 pistol, like what Gavin, is that a Taurus? What is that, Gavin?
Yeah, that's the Taurus, the TX-22.
TX-22, great pistol. It sounds like a typewriter. It is so
Hmm.
quiet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now back to with your bullets shooting him in the head versus the lungs, the one that expands,
Yeah.
your patented bullet versus the other one. I presume Gavin couldn't use that expandable one if the dogs have him and he's coming up and shooting him in the head. He wouldn't want to use that expandable one.
So
Yes.
here's what's interesting is because the bullet is made out of solid copper, what ends up happening is when you hit hard tissue, rather than expand, it actually almost kind of pushes together. So it acts in a way like a penetrator. So it could
Really?
theoretically, yeah, and the solid
Really?
copper is so much stronger than a lead core copper jacketed lead core bullet. But one point I think is that's important to make is, you know, these can be used for hunting, but if I'm going to be in bear country, grizzly country here in Wyoming
Yes.
or
Yes.
in Alaska, um, I would not carry my expanding rounds. I would carry a hard cast lead bullet, and the reason for that is if you're in the bush or you're in the mountains, you want a bullet that penetrates large, dangerous animals. Now, if a grizzly, grizzlies are can be really big. I mean, bears can be big. Moose obviously can be dangerous animals. Um, you want a bullet that in I don't want to say panic situation, but a situation where it's charging you, you want to empty that mag into the animal. You don't want to worry as much about expansion, which is, uh, maybe useful with hogs or humans or whatever. You want a bullet that you can have a good chance of getting through scapula, a good chance of getting through bone, and that would be a non-expanding option. Now, I've done a little bit of testing with our 9 mil through hard tissue, like bone and scapula, and I need to do more. But that may be a sufficient option. But there's a reason that guys who are out in the bush carrying 44 mag, carrying 10 mil. This is a 10 mil, by the way. The 10 mil. It's a Glock 41 or no Glock 40. There's a reason those guys are carrying hard cast lead or non-expanding solid copper penetrators because they can punch through into the vitals of these animals. So that's another wrinkle to the whole
Yeah.
equation.
David, you're going to be so helpful to us when we get into the broadheads because I really separate broadheads into where you shoot at a deer because there's different places people shoot. Your setup with your arrows, with your weight, momentum, kinetic energy, all that stuff we've talked about, and the broadhead you use is different on a different animal that you shoot back farther, where you have a chance. So they're two separate setups for different animals in different places you aim. So you're
Right.
going to fit in with us down there in Texas. It's going to be really analytical to help us. So I'm really
Awesome.
excited about that.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, handguns are just. I mean, it's interesting because I'm a rifle shooter through and through. But when I moved to Wyoming 5 years ago, we're hiking in areas that there are grizzly bears, and unfortunately, they haven't been delisted from the Endangered Species Act or whatever it's called, and the
Yeah.
populations are exploding, and there's
Yes, I
more and
know that.
more
Yeah.
interactions
I'll
with
give you a
humans.
little story on that personal to me is where we hunt in Dillon, Montana. That's 100 miles from Yellowstone. And
Yep.
as you said, they expand, they're protected. So they're in that area. They're not common like black bears, but there's enough that they're routinely seen by people. So I
Yep.
hunted with a gentleman once and he took a gun, a belt, and he put it on me. He says, "You cannot go out there without wearing this." And my
Yeah, that's
wife's
a good
saying,
friend.
yes. But I didn't do it. Now, this is just going to kind of be the other side of the coin is with my all my problems I have with my knees and back and everything, weight is everything to me. And just carrying that extra pistol, I'm not, I'm probably, I'm not worried about bears, maybe from a place of foolishness. I'm worried about tripping, being stuck way back in the mountains and up there and I hurt my knee or something happens and I'm stuck. So the reason I didn't take it is because of weight. So
Well,
I don't know if
here's
that affects, if there's another
it's
hunter
an
out there in the
interesting
world
point.
that matters.
No, it's an
But
interesting point. So I actually have a chest holster that I use with this pistol,
oh, okay.
and that help and having the weight on your chest as opposed to around your waist can make a big deal if you're on your feet
Okay.
hiking a lot. Also, the owner of Buffalo Bore Ammunition, Tim Sundles, he's out of Idaho. He's a very well-known. I've got a dog here. Iris, you want to say hi? Hi, Iris. Okay.
Oh, hi, Iris.
Okay, good girl. She's a
We
lion
like
dog.
dogs. We like
So
dogs. Gavin likes
Tim,
dogs too.
Tim, what he does is he carries in a shoulder holster, Dirty Harry style. And what that does is it helps to keep the weight a little bit more. I guess I don't know what the word is, but it makes it so there's less stress on maybe your hips on a long hike where you just have a big heavy pistol on one side and it's pulling your pants down and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So where you put that pistol on your person when you're out in the backcountry or the bush makes a big difference. So
And then I know we're running out of time, but I'll just leave a question for next time. Don't you mind? When you go out west, Gavin, because of these bears, there's a decision you make if you're taking a weapon with you. Am I going to take a pistol or am I going to take a pepper spray? Psh, psh, psh. So I'm sure David. Oh, look at that look on David's face. I brought that up, and he's oh, how crazy are you, Brian, bringing that up? So maybe we'll save that for next time.
well, I
No.
mean, if you're going to California, let's just say the only time I would say use bear spray is if you're going to California and you can't bring a pistol to California if you don't have a California concealed carry permit.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but in Wyoming and Montana and Idaho, luckily those are constitutional carry states. So as long as you're not a convicted felon, you can carry a pistol openly.
And you believe a pistol is a better weapon of choice for a bear attacking you than the pepper spray.
Yes, without a doubt.
Okay. We know the one that because my wife is deathly afraid of when we're in the tent there at night. She sleeps in the middle of the tent. I got to be on the outside. Every noise outside, she's afraid of. And then we go out, we see bears, and so it's kind of a big deal to her.
Well, the one of the issues with the pepper spray is if the prevailing wind is towards you, you could pepper spray yourself.
Well,
I
that's the
mean,
deal. With that guy in Montana, he got attacked by a bear. He sprayed himself. It came back again. I think he sprayed himself the second time, and then you get blinded. So, and he got mauled.
and then you get mauled while you're blinded. I
Yeah.
mean, like that's
Well, you
an absolute
panic. I
nightmare.
don't know how I would hold up in these situations. I don't know, like with Gavin, he's used to these hogs and javelinas all the time. Because I am slow reactor. I couldn't be a policeman. I couldn't be a judge in a football game. I see things. I react very slow.
Right.
And so I don't trust myself with some things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's another thing. It's an interesting point you bring up, Gavin. Is I think there are a lot of people out there who have Brian, who have they don't trust themselves with a pistol to be reactive. But I think I think that really just takes practice. I think
Yeah.
you just
Yep.
need to practice. And you can get over that hump. And that guy who gave you the pistol and said, "Hey, you're not going out with that," he knows what he's talking about. Like you got to have something on you. At least you
I
have.
hope my wife doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
She would agree with that. Yeah.
So, well,
Good. All right.
I think we're at, I think this is a nice short little podcast. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. I think what I'll do is in Texas, well, I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll bring a pistol as well, and we'll do some stuff with that. But I'm excited. I'm excited to meet you guys in person and do some testing. So
Yes. Can't wait.
Yeah. So I think for our next talk, we need to bring up how these broadheads and how David's bullets kind of act the same. And
definitely,
then we'll talk about different broadheads and how they work, and then we can kind of correlate those to bullets as well.
that'd be really interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have so many archery customers who, for example, they are older guys. They can't pull their string back,
Yeah.
and they want to still be out in the field and hunt, but they don't want to make a bunch of noise, and so they end up going with our products, and they're really happy.
Oh,
Um,
neat.
so I mean, dozens and dozens of guys just like that who have the same story. I hear it all the time. So
Great.
yeah,
I'm learning, David. Maybe slow, but I'm learning.
well, I think we're all learning. So
Well, if there's anybody got experience, it's Gavin. I mean, he goes out. Randy, by the way, Gavin told me he would love to do what you do because he loves experimenting with bullets and doing all that stuff. My friend, he reloads all his own, and the guys that are into it, but
yeah,
they got to hypothetically sit together and talk. Where Gavin says, "Okay, I'm going to go out tomorrow night and shoot a couple of hogs with that one, and then the next time I'm going to try this one here."
they
So
are.
he's got the experience and the ability to test all these every week.
Hogs are such a double-edged sword because yes, they're a nuisance animal. They do a lot of destruction, but for people in our business, they are an amazing asset for testing. It's just unreal. Like, and you get in the right setting where you have a concentration of them, and you want to test a specific type of bullet out, or a broadhead, for example. I mean, what more could you ask? I mean, the anatomy of a hog is, I mean, yes, they're different than humans, but not, all things considered, not that different. I mean, the vital organs are all kind of in the same area. The bones have very similar density. Um, you know, so I think they're fantastic test subjects. I mean, they may not be willing test subjects, but um, you know,
Yeah, they're gonna go one way or the other.
right.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yep.
guys. Well,
All right, you guys have a great night.
yeah, you guys too. Thanks again.
That was fun,
Yeah.
David. Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.